Hey, I don't know if you saw the news. You might have. It's probably all over YouTube now. You're seeing it, maybe NAB. But we got to talk about what happened with a particular company by the name of Insta360. I've done plenty of videos for them over the years. They make 360 cameras amongst some of the best action cameras in the world. But what they did, what's the best way to say this? They went and made the greatest 360 camera that's ever been made, known to man. They just went and made the best action camera in the world. They just hold my beer. That's what they did. I'm in a top secret location, wearing this shirt for a reason, high vis. And I've got something exciting behind my back. Not one, but two Insta360 X4s. The latest offering in what I think is the greatest action camera to ever exist. So what do you do with an action camera? The greatest action camera that has ever existed. What can you put it on? What can you mount it to? What can you film? Well, I think it would be great to stick them to a couple of Red Bull planes and send two very talented pilots into the sky and see what we can get just from two cameras. In September of 2022, the Insta360 X3 was announced. This was the successor to the One X2, a new half-inch 48 megapixel sensor allowing 5.7K 360-degree footage. Since that day, 2 years, the people have wanted 8K. You've got it. This is the Insta360 X4. Got the greatest production level quality 8K 360 camera known to man, just available for purchase now. They just went and did that. Absurd. The X4 is of the highest tiered, I would say, action cameras on the planet. 360 action cameras. How do you even class it? There's a lot of Insta360, 360 action camera, 8K. The X4 is absurd. Simply put, crimes have been committed. They must be held accountable. This thing is unreal. Oh, lens guards. I hereby want to extend Insta360 the thanks of the planet for lens guards. The amount of relationships this will save, accountants, bank accounts, tiers, just with a little twist, these lens caps come off and they come back on, these lens guards. and you have to go into the software and let the camera know that you've put them on so that it does whatever it does to not make the footage look whack. But oh my gosh, we all know, and we've all been there when you are riding this camera close to the ground and it looks so good and it looks so good, but then you might fly a little too close to the sun, just a little, and then, oh my gosh, you scrape it, and then your world collapses. Instant, you gotta buy a new camera right away. So that's gonna save so many lives. Big fan of the lens covers. Insta360, hell yeah. That's sick. This is 8K. When you think about reframing footage, that's already nuts. If you've used one of these Insta360 cameras before, like the X3, you know what reframing is. You can film one thing and get as many angles of it as you want. You can get the left side, the right side, above, below, to the left. You can get the person right in front who's filming it. You can get the person, literally you can film everything from every direction by reframing the footage after the fact. That is unbelievable. When that came out, that was an absolute game changer. Like very, very cool. But to now have reframing with 8K resolution means literally like you can do anything with this. Not only can you do anything with it though, but the confidence that it instills to just know that I'm good, I've got the shot. I was gonna say you can't pay for that, but you can, because you can just buy an X4 and then you've paid for that. But for an example, when we were shooting the Eclipse project with Red Bull, how do you get an angle on the left wing, on the right side, above, below, the pilot, the cockpit, the other plane flying in tandem? You would have to rig 15 action cameras all over the plane, just litter it everywhere. Or you could put one X4 on one plane, and maybe put another X4 on the other if you want. You don't even have to do two. One X4 will get you an entire acrobatic sequence that looks like you've captured that from every single camera imaginable, but it was just one. This footage was so good coming off that airplane, they wanted to use it, but it wasn't out yet, so they didn't have the beta software to edit it. Love that. All right, so after looking at a sequence like that, we touched on reframing at the beginning of this video, but looking at it again, you can just look around this shot within the Insta360 editing suite. By the way, the software is very easy to use. It makes reframing and de-warping and adding the stabilization, all those things, very, very easy. I think if that was a real hurdle for people, that would be like absolutely a minus on this camera, but it is most certainly a plus, because it's very easy to do. But just looking around this footage, like I can get the whole shot of the plane, I can turn around, I can see the plane behind, I can go fully behind, I can go 360, we can see the full plane headed forward, I can zoom into that footage, I can pull out of that footage, but with that 8K resolution, you've got so much flexibility, you've got so much room to play. And what that does is really lets you fine tune the shot so you're getting exactly what you want. All right, next let's talk about de-warping. That de-warp button is really gonna straighten out that horizon. That gives you that really nice, clean, locked off shot, which honestly doesn't even look like it's like a 360 or action cam at that point. Aspect ratio, changing that on the fly, very handy. You can see right here, we've got it set to 16:9. I could choose 4:3. I could choose 2.35 and throw some mats on it. If I wanna make this something that I can post as a reel, as a short, as a TikTok, anything for social, I can go 9:16 and it's instantly gonna crop that for mobile for me, for vertical viewing. And that's all within the exact same studio. All this stuff is just very simple, 1-2 clicks away. Okay, the flow state stabilization on the X4 is chef's kiss. Very, very good. Take a look at this clip here. This is the plane with stabilization off. Now, pause. Already, that still looks good. That's the action camera not mounted to any type of gimbal or specific vehicle mount. It's just stuck to the wing. So any kind of vibration, any kind of movement, rattle that plane would naturally have from the motor, from just the way it's built, from ripping at nearly 200 miles an hour through the air, that already with stabilization off, that's pretty good. Now, when we turn it on, it's perfect. Literally, it's perfect. There's not much else to say about that. The flow state has always been good. It is as good, if not
even better in the X4. I'm sure the extra resolution really helps with that. Even if you turned flow state on and you still notice like, wow, it's kind of weird, which I don't think it would be unless you were trying to make it shake. With that extra resolution, you could crop in a little bit, which will help with the overall camera shake if you're not as wide. Again, more pixels to play with. That helps you in every single category. Let's talk dynamic range. Cameras do not look inherently cinematic if they don't have good dynamic range. So this is a very bright, sunny day. Let's take a look at an exterior shot while we're fueling up the planes here. That camera's still mounted on the back, but you can see there's good detail in the shadow. That bright sun isn't blown out. Everything's evenly exposed, looking pretty good. Here's what's impressive to me. Before I even show you this, we're gonna roll that plane into the hangar. So you're gonna get the exposure of inside the hangar, but the door is open. We wanna focus on how the outside looks. Is it blown out? Is there just floods of light washing in? How does that dynamic range look in a wide shot when the plane's inside? We can both see inside and outside. Take a look. Come on. That's, I don't need to say it. I don't need to say it. Now you can shoot in log with the X4. This is an example of adjusting some of that dynamic range. We didn't notice a ton of lens flaring, which is pretty good. It's pretty minimal. Lens flares look good, but when there's too many of them and they're in the way, especially I was worried about having those lens guards on, was that gonna create more flare? It was very, very minimal. I didn't notice a massive amount of it, which is great because where they do look good, it can be very distracting and absolutely ruin a shot. Okay, so we've seen the cameras perform midday, bright sun, flow state stabilization. We know the dynamic range is pretty good during a midday situation. Let's kind of get into the evening and strap these cameras to the plane for a low light flight so we can analyze some of that footage. So the sun is pretty much set at this point, and we've run some noise reduction within the Insta360 suite. Now, if we focus on the bottom left and right corners, we can see there is a bit of noise happening there. It's not a perfectly clean image, but it still looks very good. Here's a shot back at that same gas pump after the flight in the evening, also noise reduced within the Insta360 studio. That looks good. It's not the most perfectly clean shot I've ever seen, but we are talking about a pocketable 360 action camera. I definitely know other brands that would not look this good, especially in low light. So I wanted to run you through those clips that we set aside so that you could actually see some of these new features that have made it into the X4. You could see them in practice with actual sample clips, not just me walking around the street here. There's nothing wrong with that, but this was a great test, I felt. Really putting them to work under fire for a very important project where the stakes were high and results mattered. And we can just run through some general specs, things I'm sure you've already seen or heard. We've got a bigger screen on it. You can tell right away. It's a 2.5-inch screen. That battery life is now up to 135 minutes, which is a huge improvement over the X3. And that matters, especially when you have a camera doing this much. All those features can be amazing, but if that battery life sucks and you're having to recharge it constantly, or the cold weather is killing it, or you just can't depend or rely on it, then what's the point? Why even bother? So the big improvement over that X3 to this battery life is it's needed. You can't have this camera without it. There's a new mega view field of view. So if you just want to see, if you want to see yourself filming, hit mega view. You can also take 72 megapixel 360 photos, which is pretty wild when you think about it. You can shoot 60 FPS at 5.7K, 4K 100 FPS. They also have me mode that you can throw into 120 FPS. And we all know I love some good 120 for some tasty slow motion. I think if you weren't going to be reframing tons of shots, then the 5.7K is going to be the optimal setting for action cam stuff. Like if you just want to stick it on a bike, on a dirt bike, whatever, any type of extreme scenario, I would probably use the 5.7K, especially at 60 frames per second. That's going to look amazing. You can have that slow down and come back into speed. We all know the ramping on that looks good all the time. That would probably be my daily driver. If I wanted to reframe and really take advantage of that crazy resolution, then I would for sure always have that on 8K. If you've heard of Insta360, you've seen the invisible selfie stick. It's great. They also have one that is like a pole vault. It's absurdly long, and you can fake drone shots with that, which is cool. You could literally open up a clip and fake a drone shot. I've stuck it out my sunroof before. It looks like a drone's following the truck. Be mindful of power lines. but that is an option based on the fact that drones are kind of just being banned everywhere. Getting into some countries with a drone is even difficult, but not an Insta360. That 5.7K, throw it on that new Mega View so that you have the craziest field of view. That would be just an absolute chef's kiss setup. I don't ever find a situation where I bust out an X3 or an X4 and can't do something, which is nice. I don't find like, I can do this, but it's gonna be bad in low light. I can do this, but the flow state's kind of, All of those things have been addressed, buttoned up, and now you're kind of holding this device where you're thinking to yourself, wow, if I could request features, I'm not sure what I would actually request in the future. Always better low light, always more dynamic range, always better battery life, but we got all those things. So as a roundup, do I think you should upgrade if you already have an X3 to the X4? I think this is one of those jumps in a product release where yes, it makes sense to upgrade or at least add a second camera, and then this becomes the main and your X3 is your backup. But if you wanted to mount two cameras to two different things, two different people, two different objects, two different vehicles, like we did in this video, that's a perfect example where you would want an X4 to complement the X3 that you might already have. If you don't have one at all, I highly recommend checking out an Insta360 camera. For all of the reasons we outlined in this video, they are honestly the future and my favorite action cam by far to use. What a time. What a time to be filmmakers, content creators. The tools we have, we are very lucky to have companies just innovating and competing, and we are the beneficiaries of all of that work. So thank you to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. Thanks for making the X4. Thanks for sending me one to check out and mount to some Red Bull planes. Thank you to Red Bull for letting me mount these cameras to your planes. Kevin Coleman, Pete McLeod, flying your epic lines, being world-class pilots, and bringing those cameras home safely so I could make this video. Okay, honestly, wrapping things up here. With these cameras, your creativity is really the only thing that's gonna be limiting the hardware. The amount of different shots you can get in creative angles and ways to capture content is honestly endless. That's very exciting when it comes to 360 content, passing the selfie stick through car windows, faking slider shots, doing crazy dolly moves, like just wrapping your brain around how you can make that software work for you to get the most insane looking shots that aren't just the typical standard shots. It is easy to just mount this to a plane, reframe, get some sick angles, but I feel like that's barely scraping the surface. There are some incredible creators out there that really push the edge when it comes to Insta360 and being able to exploit every single ounce of what it has to give you to get the most unique shots that you've never seen that make you just think to yourself, what the hell was that? That's also great for mobile content. You want to capture attention? When you're able to capture something so unique that when someone's scrolling on social media and they stop because they've never seen anything like that, that's easy with a camera like this. So I would encourage you to really, if you do end up picking up an X4, really get weird with it and see what kind of shots you can get that you haven't seen anyone else get. That's what's gonna set you above and make those clips viral. All right, so if you wanna grab your own X4, the first 50 people that click the link in my bio below are gonna get a free invisible selfie stick, but that's just the first 50 people. So pause, click, grab one of those right now, and you'll get that thrown in on the house. Thank you so much for watching this video. Best of luck, and we'll see you in the next one.